Hey everyone, glad y'all are here tonight. We had a great week. There's a lot of great news out there that's been going on with in several areas and our growth of our channel, and so there's some really good news that we're going to be covering tonight, and we'll get to it now.
That was quick.
It was. All right. As always, do a brief introduction myself. I'm retired law enforcement, 20 years. I've worked everything from jail, road to investigations. Part of my assignments during my career, I was on the SWAT team. I was an entry leader for one of our teams. I also was a counter sniper. State certified in a lot of different areas of taking courses over my career. Became a state certified crime scene tech. Was also in my investigative career, took a lot of different courses so I could specialize in certain disciplines. I've investigated everything from burglaries to homicides. I'm retired now and still in good standings with everybody, and keep up and talk to some of my old working partners and everything. But tonight we're going to be covering a lot of different things that is related from my interest of when I was in law enforcement to what I want to do in the future. And as I've looked at the community of the web sleuth and the YouTube creators and how that we might be able to have even a greater impact, that if once we bring all our interests and all our focus together, and everyone that's out there that has an interest in solving cold cases, targeting these evil people that's within our societies, and what needs to be done and how we can create something that we can assist law enforcement in. And then in one of those areas that once I became part of this community and have been welcomed in by a number of creators out there, and I wish to thank all of them. And every day I go out and I speak with other creators, go on their channels, and speak to them. And there's really a lot of good people out there that's doing it for the right reasons. And it's those people that I seek out and those people that I wish to align myself with so that we can have the proper impact. And one of the things that Mrs. Steve and I have decided to do is with the CI-CLOPS, building this operational system that where people can have ease to go in and look at certain crimes that's happened within the parameters that we have set and for the ages that we have chosen that we want to put in our database, which is teenagers and younger. That Andrew's been working real hard on the website this week, and all our volunteers that are working and gathering data for us for the CI-CLOPS system, I owe them so much. I don't have the words to tell them how much I respect what they've done for and are doing, gathering this data, taking their time, stepping forth, and sending us the data, creating and helping us create something that can actually save lives, can be used as a tool for parents to be able to go out there and look and see what concerns in their communities are, where people can go out and look at cold cases, might jostle a memory or two, and maybe even lead to a certain tip or lead, or certain YouTubers go out there and do an investigation and actually have an impact on some of these cases working with law enforcement. And that's what this whole CI-CLOPS system is about. We're getting the mapping system up. It'll look very similar to what you see here on the side of your screen. And then, of course, as the information comes in its raw form, then we back it up and we try to find as many photographs or photos so that we can personalize it and bring focus to these victims even more so. And so just bear with us as we bring this forth. Our volunteers are working hard, and I most certainly owe them all the thanks in the world for what they've done so far and what they're have committed that they're going to continue to do in the future. It certainly means a lot to us.
Did you explain the map and the little picture?
Yes,
Okay.
just that
Sorry.
that's just a brief introductory of what it will look like. But of course, when the map is in its full state, you'll be able to go in there, interact with it, push on those pins and the information of each individual, and you'll be able to see clusters in certain areas. There'll be actually, whenever you'll see that, there'll be different color pins. Each of the pins represent a certain age groups, and that'll be described on our website so that when you go in there, if you're looking for just children in a specific age group of, say, 0 to 12, they'll have certain markers. The 13 to 17s will have certain color marker, and then, of course, 18 and 19 will have a certain color marker, so that anyone wishing to use this interactive map will be able to go in there and just focus on a certain age group, so that if they're talking with their families or their children, or anyone in any type of conversation can go in there and see what's going on in their neighborhood, or bring up some key points for whatever type of or age group they're speaking with. But that's what she probably meant. I didn't go as in depth as I should have.
And if you click a marker, it looks like that.
Yeah, and when you click a marker, it'll pull up that picture like she's indicating here in the top left. All right. But we had a great show this last weekend on Saturday that we discussed about Mr. Ives and everything that he had released over the years in his interviews. And I went in and did a detailed analysis of those things, did some brought out some key points that I found extremely interesting. And it was a great show. And actually, it was a stepping stone and a mile marker for me and Mrs. Steve, because it became our first show that, as you are a creator and as your channel grows, there's certain stepping stones that you have small goals. This was the first show that we had that we've had almost all our shows actually getting up around 1,000+ views. But this was the first one that went 1,000+ views in less than 24 hours. I know it don't sound like much to a lot of creators out there that have great, huge channels and commitment from their and they've built their channel for that purpose, and they may get 1,000 views an hour. We haven't got there yet, but we're working hard towards that goal. And we hit this, and now we're off 3 days afterwards, and we've got over 3,000. So this was a great goal that we have reached, and look forward to doing that in the future with a lot of other shows that we have. And as our audience grows, as our dedicated and followers who we absolutely appreciate, that you just don't know how much, that also this week we was able to hit 1,000 subscribers, which means our footprint's growing. Our content is appreciated, and we enjoy making it so that we can have an impact. And I want to thank everyone out there that's a subscriber and plays a part in this, because it means so much to us that as we create this content, we're trying to have an impact that serves society. And it appears that the comments that we get during the shows and the comments that we get after the shows, when the videos are there in the comment section below the videos, and I go in and answer quite a few of those as much as possible, and to show that I most certainly appreciate everyone and where we're going to go with this channel, and the commitment we have to serve and try to bring recognition to these families and to the message that every family deserves justice, and every family deserves to be recognized, and these cases need to be worked. And this just shows that we are having some impact on it, and I can't wait for the future.
Everybody's congratulating you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. One of the cases that happened this week that is of great news, and that's with Karena McClurkin on that cold case that occurred. Let's see what the exact date was on it. I got it here. October 11th, 2016 is when she came up, around that time period as far as becoming missing. Jerry McClurkin, which I've spoken to in early June about this case when Marv and Frank did a show, and of course they talked about and said that they would have me contact her. Jerry is a very feisty female, and I'm going to give credit where credit's due. This lady and her family have fought this entire time to bring focus and keep Karena's name in the news. Never hesitated, went out there and continuously put her name in the news, continuously contacted law enforcement, continuously was put, you know, when you talk to her, you can feel the pain of how she was just beating her head against the wall. And we had worked, and I spent some time with her, talked about a lot of stuff. This lady has, as I was reading the affidavit today that's been released, this lady had a lot of information, key information, more than what's even in the affidavit. And she was 100% dead right. Now, there was other information, and there was a lot of investigations and a lot of misinformation that had come out over the years. And but this lady here and her family, they deserve every bit of the credit. I admire her and everything that they've done. Our thoughts and prayers are with her and her family. I sent her an email today and told her if there's anything that we can do for her family at any time, most certainly reach out and we'll do anything we can for them. But this character here on this Flint farmer, Jerry McClurkin, of course, has always targeted him, law enforcement also. But Jerry had so much information about this individual and this man and what she thought. And it's come to pass that she was right. And but like I said, she is a great lady to be reckoned with. She is very colorful in language and a very strong individual. And I admire her very much. Here, like I said, during these coffee and clues stuff, we, on the presentation part, mostly it's about everything that we've done in the last week or two. And one of the things that we did, of course, is up in Iowa. And we have to look at some of the cases that we covered up there, being Gosh, Martin, or Allen, the newspaper issues with the boys and the murders. Also with Evansdale with Lyric and Elizabeth. If any of you have any information on them, most certainly willing to discuss the cases tonight. And also call in and contact them if you know of anyone or any clues or some information comes in. Notify Iowa Crime Stoppers. And then, of course, the other case that got me into this world of web sleuth and this community that I have decided to follow. And that, of course, is Libby and Abby. And if you have any information on them, most certainly contact them. But as tonight, everything's opened up for discussion for even from Uvalde to the recent shooting in the mall. I'd be glad to answer any questions about anything, and we'll get to it. And it probably won't be a real long show tonight, but if it is, it is. If it's not, I thank everyone for being here for where we're at right now.
You don't do anything about your next project?
Oh, we do have another project coming up that
it's in the works.
It's in the works, and it has a lot to do with what I've realized and using certain skill sets that I was trained to do for the job that I did for many, many years. But we're working on that now, and I actually had a slide in here that I was going to introduce it a little bit more tonight, but we decided to pull it. But in the coming weeks, we'll be discussing it. And then also on Saturday night coming up, we'll be discussing the McClurkin case and some of the things that I spoke to Jerry about, plan of actions that we had, and some details about that case. And most certainly, like I said, she was dead on. And knowing the knowledge that and having that information in hand and knowing that the case could be solved and would be solved possibly with the information she had, I was extremely excited about it. I'm not one bit surprised, other than that law enforcement came forward and did it before the plan of action went into effect. That was a pleasant surprise, and most certainly law enforcement and should be recognized for doing it. They should also be recognized that there was what they found this when they executed the search warrant, and that's the information in the affidavit. That information was there since day one. The evidence that was collected at that crime scene was there since day one, since October 11th, when she went missing. That evidence has been there. And so we have to give them the good with the bad. And they most certainly could have processed it at any time since October of 2016 and had the exact same results that they had. I think it was on June the 22nd, I believe. Yeah, it's late June. If they had acted any time before then, that information would have been there. But anyway, so we'll get to work.
All right. So let me go back. We got a lot of congrats in here. So let me scroll through real quick. Thank y'all for the congratulations. We greatly appreciate it. Let's see here. Google machine is working.
Yeah.
For right now, anyway. Copper Horse, hello, Steve. And the missus, good news. Hoping it leads to more discovery, more arrest, other cases solved, and more good news. So many things going on, it's hard to keep up with.
Absolutely.
You are correct.
We live in exciting times.
Yes, we are. Let's see here. Come on. We got lots of congrats in here.
And like I say, I appreciate the congrats, but
it's y'all.
It's y'all. We wouldn't be here without you.
Let's see here. Marvin Frank and I will be doing research this weekend for Indiana. Perfect. Sorry, been so busy this week with the McClurkin film. Completely understand that. Hey, I'm not the speediest at getting all that stuff worked up there anyway. So let's see here. Dave, good news this week about Karena.
Absolutely is, and the recovery also is good news for the family. That's all they really wanted for so long. That after a cold case, that this family decided that just having something of her is what they wanted, and I'm glad that that has come to pass.
Shane, quality over quantity. I like that. Let's see here. Molly, come on. No, I can't get it to. Here we go. Oh, it's awesome you have 1,000 subscribers. We've got the 4,000 hours. That's what I was concerned about, and it beat the subscribers.
Absolutely, our content, for whatever reason, we're almost at 10,000 hours viewing time. So we blew that out of the water. We were so concerned that when we first got that, you see a lot of YouTube channels that have 1,000 viewers, and they're working towards their 4,000 hours. And, you know, we had, like I say, it was just unbelievable. And the amount of hours that when we go in there and look at the analysis of what's going on with our channel and people viewing it, that we have that many hours of people watching our shows and watching our content. It's an honor. And most certainly it makes us want to work even harder for you and everyone out there so that we can have an impact.
All right. Trust and Justice. Congratulations. You put out facts, not specs.
We always want to do that. And even the next project that we're about to go into, we're going to be trying to go out there and bring and help these families with facts that will put our boots on the ground and get out there where we can work with some of these cold cases. Looking forward to that.
All right. CCK, don't forget us when you get big.
I will never get as big as y'all. And that's my Georgia stuff there, y'all. But you are us. You know, whatever we are and wherever we go with this, it's all due to what you are out there and what y'all can do and what the impact that you can have. I have certain skill sets that I took the courses and the training for, and there's a lot that I can do, and most certainly I want to use those skill sets.
All right, we're still in the congratulations. Okay, here we go. Support with Steppa at Steve. What are your thoughts that Jerry and James were not notified of Karena's possible remains being found? Only her mother. Is this normal practice?
I think I saw somewhere that the mother is the original, is closest, and that's typically that's a very typical thing that happens. That the closest of kin is the first notified, and you know, most certainly there's going to be that. Well, who was the biggest fighter for them? I never spoke to the mother. I don't know. She may have been just as hard a fighter for him as not. I don't know. I never spoke with anybody but Jerry, and so I have no, you know, I feel I don't know if the family is even concerned about it. I don't know if that's just something that's in the YouTube speculation part of it. I have no idea. I don't know how the family feel. I don't know who all was there, and I don't know anything about that. But that is common practice in law enforcement, that the closest next of kin is notified, and we try to make sure that in law enforcement, whatever assistance, either pastor or advocate or whatever the family needs through this, in our neck of the woods. I don't know how it is in Indiana, that whatever can assistance that they need at that time during the notifications, we most certainly want to try to assist families in any way that we can. But I don't know anything about any of that right now. But whenever I speak to Jerry, if she has an opinion of that and wishes to express it to me, I most certainly will pass that on.
Molly at Steve. During the presser today, I think they said, quote, more arrests coming. Any opinions who are able to give on what they may be referring to?
That is a very when on that right now, if there are other people out there involved in this case, and they're looking back right now thinking about what evidence and what stuff is out there that from 6 years ago. And so there's some if there's other people about to be arrested, hopefully there are some type of surveillance, because they're most certainly considering a lot of things that's about to happen to them, and these people know who they are, and if they know that more arrests are coming. That can be across a lot of speculation. Is it obstruction of justice? Is it destruction of evidence? Is it, there's so many things that can get you involved in these investigations. Are you holding some type of evidence that's critical to the investigation? Did you play some part in the movement of the victim? Did you clean up something? Did you destroy something? There's so much that can be encompassed in that one statement, that more arrest and what part they played in it. The people that played parts in it, they know what part they played in it. Law enforcement, when they make that comment, there's more than likely they have some key players identified, and it's just a matter of time until they act.
Digital, if those remains are not Karena or someone else, whoever led them there has some explaining to do.
I agree.
Any reason to think they're not Karena?
Well, when you're dealing, I hadn't even considered that they weren't, but it is a good point that there's a lot of bodies out there. This part of the state that we're in, there's a lot of lakes, and so there's a lot of bodies in a lot of lakes, and there's a lot of state parks and and recreational areas, trails, woods. We recovered a lot of bodies. Sometimes when someone would get someone to aid them or assist them in disposing of a body, and their assistant would get nervous and turn them in that, hey, so-and-so asked me to go dispose of a body on such and such area. And there is sometimes when you're like with the Green River Killer, that when they was looking for one body, they found several others. In the serial type and maybe even some of the drug world areas, that they would be multiple bodies. But I have no reason to believe that this isn't Karena, especially since all the news came out and all the notifications. So they have strong beliefs that whoever told them and led them here, that this is the person that this is Karena. I may be wrong, but I took it that this was her, not anyone else.
And Frank Meister, I want to thank Steve for both Marvin and I for schooling us in investigative work.
Well, I don't know if I'm the best teacher in the world. I've studied under some great teachers, and hopefully we'll all have an impact as we move forward, and everyone understands. And if we can ever do anything that most certainly allows people to look at something in a new perspective and start making linking information together that solves anything, I'm absolutely am honored for even being considered a teacher in such a manner.
You've done a lot of teaching.
Training law enforcement.
Don't let him fool you.
Training law enforcement officers to be respectful, good law enforcement officer. I did have a great career doing that, and it was a very interesting and and I met some really great kids that first stepped into law enforcement, put on that uniform for the first time, and some of them made and did extremely well. A couple of them were absolutely failures. They went on to break laws and spent time in prison, and sadly, because they had the potential to be just as much of have an impact on society as some of the not as bright or hardworking individuals. But you meet people all across the spectrum that come into law enforcement for a lot of different reasons, and some of them progress and do right, and some of them are absolutely failures.
The Bible Group. Steve, do you see pre-crime profiling becoming extremely important? Do you think it's right to arrest someone based on a pre-crime profile?
They have, if they're violating any type of law and they have indicators out there, they're about to do something like on some of these active shooters and things that's happening. If they violated any law, I don't care how minor it is. If it's something that they're about to take a step towards and do something major, and I don't know if this is the part that you're talking about on the pre-profile. Thought crimes is one thing, but if they're doing something that's illegal and we have to act and place them and detain them, or even use some of the red flag laws for removing firearms and stuff from them, if this is what you're referring to about some of the pre-crime stuff, there has to be a law broken before they can be placed under arrest, not just thought crimes.
Okay.
And if that's not what it is, just hit me up and let me know if that's what you were talking about.
All right. And this is from Y. What's the danger of police releasing info on the Delphi case? Might it jeopardize the court case or the actual arrest?
Ives says that he thought that they should release more information. I've always, looking at the video, analyzing the video, and looking at the evidence, and hearing Carter speak that we're 5 years after, and they have a strategy, and we're 5 years after, and no one's in jail. But when you hear the prosecutor Ives talk of it, and he says that he believes that more information should be released. He knows all the information that law enforcement knows at the time that he left. And even at that time, when he first left, and I think he's come back in and been reinstated in some manner. But during these interviews, he knew all the evidence, and he says that they could release more information. And with that being held and him saying that they should, and John Douglas most certainly even believes that more information should be released, and he's a profiler that is world renowned. And so if they say that, and when you have a prosecutor says more information can be released, and he would know from the prosecution part of the case that it wouldn't jeopardize the case, or he wouldn't be suggesting that it would be released. And so with those thoughts in place and everything, I believe it wouldn't hurt the case. Now, there's certain evidence that they would never be able to release, but Ives says that there's some that should be. And so I'll agree with him that if he's the most knowledgeable person I know on the case that's made that statement. And so I'll go with him that, yes, there's information that can be released that won't hurt the case.
All right. And Rosie for Rivet says has full custody at Steve. I'm not sure about that unless she was talking about when they notified the mama instead of the grandmama.
Like I said, I have no idea. I don't know.
Oh, that's it. I'm sorry. I should have read it. I should have read further. Molly at Rosie. But Karena was 18 at the time she went missing. Correct if wrong, but custody ends at that point.
Yeah.
And then Steffa says the same thing. Why would a mother have custody of an 18-year-old? Okay, so that's what she was talking about. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Belinda, it is heartbreaking, but it has happened many times in cases. Yes. Marv and Frank, Jerry and James were expecting to be told before the conference. Okay. Let's see here. Unsolved mystery. Humans in the chat better not be picking on the Southern accents now. LOL. Thank you, Unsolved. I greatly appreciate that.
And you spelled Ewens correct.
You sure did. So you get the gold star for the day. Let's see here. Molly, this is from Steffa. You are correct. She was 18. No one should have custody unless she was mentally challenged and mom received guardianship. Yeah. All right. Trust and justice. If everyone can understand that, at my daughter's death, the biological parents are first notified, specifically the mother, wrongful death.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tragedy regardless. And like I said, law enforcement, they always, until the closest kin, been there. I hate that Jerry and them feel it, and I don't know. I haven't spoken to Jerry, and Marv and Frank have a clearer picture of that than I just sent an email. I haven't spoken to her. Hopefully, after a certain amount of time, I will make contact with her.
Bible group, when will you start accepting money? We're not there yet. We're working on it.
No, and actually, some of the stuff about the money stuff, we have some other projects that's coming up, and at some point, if I go on the road and I start using and start doing some things for certain families and for these families of these cold cases, and most certainly do it at no charge, because that's one of the projects that we're looking at, doing some volunteer work. Just like Marv and Frank will tell you that we was looking at helping Jerry with their case, and we was trying to find a PI to go up there and trying to find a crime scene tech. That's, for me, it's about, 8-10 hours of drive time. Which we had discussed about going up there and providing that service if we had a PI or if we could get our way into the resident and do certain things that needed to be done at that residence. But it came to pass that before we got to that step, law enforcement did exactly what needed to be done with the information that Jerry had. and law enforcement had it also, obviously, for the fact that they went in there and collected it. And I was very concerned since I had knowledge of what information could be there in certain areas, that certain things can happen to certain properties and evidence can be destroyed. But I most that if we decide that we want to go on the road and start working and becoming a cold case unit at no charge to the families, most certainly we will be asking, because, you know, I'll do everything I can to help anyone and everyone if I can get there. And so there may be that we may ask for some crowdfunding on some specific cases and stuff in the future, and buying equipment and stuff. But we're going to do some research into that and see, because when I spoke to Jerry, and we came up with our plan of action of how to collect the evidence that she knew of, that she had seen personally, that there's only one way to collect that evidence, and you have to go to those locations. And I, like I said, we had a plan of action of what to do for that. Marvin Frank, I had discussed with them. They had actually even had a show and broke some of the surface about trying to raise some money for certain things that needed to be done for her. And I think Jerry was also trying to raise some money within their community so that she could take the steps needed to collect some of this stuff. But like I said, law enforcement, our prayers were answered, and law enforcement stepped in and did that, and we didn't have to. And so that was a good day.
All right, I'm not sure about this one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's see here. All right, Teresita Hillis, I wish LE had handled their announcement differently and had told Jerry and James beforehand. Certainly don't blame Jerry for her reaction.
And I don't know what Jerry's reaction was. Like I said, I know nothing about that. But most certainly I can imagine if you offend Jerry, Jerry's going to let you know. She reminded me so much of my grandmother. My goodness, you talking about colorful language. My grandmother was the exact same way.
Oh, yeah.
She told you exactly what she thought every moment. You never walked around and had any, you was never in the dark of where you stood. And Jerry is in exactly the same temperament.
Too funny. All right, this is from Sean. Steve is in an interrogation, do guilty or suspicious people always show body language indicators? I love that.
There's training in that. There's so much that goes into certain interrogation techniques, and there's certain things that they can teach you, from neurolinguistics to speech patterns to body movements, body positioning, and there's all different types of areas that in law enforcement training that you can go to, and you get this training from handwriting, taking statements, reading what they write, doing videos, watching videos, seeing what they say and how they say, where they look.
I love that.
And just from their postures. So there's so many different areas of specialties and techniques of interrogations that you don't get when you read the transcript. And so, well, a lot of these videos that they use in training and stuff are some of these bad guys over the years. And even when we go in and we set up and do interrogations of other law enforcement officers in staged events, that they may be telling a false story, and you have to pick out how much of the story is false and how much of it is truthful. That there's some good training techniques out there. It's very interesting, and it takes a long time. And there's some people out there walking, talking lie detector machines. There's some great people out there that they know what they're talking about, and listen to them. And then there's some of them out there that's not as good, but there's some of them out there, like I said, they know what they're talking about, and there's a lot of stuff that you can read from certain patterns that's within humans.
From Digital, Steve, why do you think ISP and FBI were not represented at the presser today?
I was working this morning, so I didn't get to see all of it. I don't know if it's just a city case and it's not the state case. Maybe that's the reason why. I don't know how much work the FBI has done on it. I don't know how much work Indiana State Police worked on it. I don't know if it was all in-house police investigation. It appears to be that, it's strange that they wouldn't, because if it's a task force, the whole task force is represented. If it's a single department, then of course it's a single department.
Let's see here. All right. Molly at Steve, regarding Delphi, why, in your opinion, does LE say with the video, quotes, look at that body, the walk, listen to the voice, don't pay attention to the face, end quote? It's strange to me.
Well, looking at the body, I can understand that part of it, that you want to see that how he's built, what clothing he's wearing, his frame, all those characteristics. I'll pull that back up. The walk, there's no need to pay attention to the walk, because you're only talking about one step. We don't know what his continuous walk gait looks like. I mean, it's not even, it gives the appearance that he's walking, but you're only looking at one step that and a quarter. It's not a full gait. So I don't pay a lot of attention to the walk. It means nothing to me. The voice, if that is a good audio, most certainly listen to the voice, the words said, manner of speech, calmness, that a man can speak in such a manner in a high stress situation of him knowing what was going to happen that day. Absolutely. A lot of stuff needs to be in there. And that's how come I'm pushing so hard towards that. We need all the video that there is, regardless of how gobbled or pixelated or out of focus it is, so that we can see that walk. This may be the only part of it that's has been dressed up to the point they can see, but there's other mannerisms. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but to prove me wrong, we have to have the 43 seconds of that video, and let's see what it is. If it only flashes on for image for 1.25 seconds, then it only flashes on with images for 1.25. If it's total darkness for the other 43 or 41.5 seconds, let me see the total darkness. I just want to see what could possibly be in that 43 seconds. And it is strange to me also. I don't understand that, but all that.
All right, one solved mystery. It's a shame LE does not utilize the public more after a case has gone cold, say 5 years or so. So many cases could be solved that way.
Yeah, the Department of Justice and Justice Institute, they say 3 years, and they also describe that anything after 5 years most certainly should be considered cold. And there's a lot of argument that, they're still taking tips on it, so it's not cold. But I'll go with what the Justice Department, that's my definition. I've accepted that when I talk about a case after 3 years, most certainly, regardless of what information is coming in, it's pretty much cold.
All right. And Molly, going on the road would be great. Wow. Okay.
In certain mannerism, yes, but also that, these families deserve, and if law enforcement, such as with the McClurkin case, if they sat there on this evidence that was sitting in this residence for 6 years, going on 6 years, that evidence was there. And And for people, you know, such as I, that's been trained in processing crime scenes, they would have found it day one, week one, month one, year one, and they found it in years going on 6. So most certainly we have to look at that and think that it would be great. And if I can ever get out there and do that and help one family, most certainly, that's what I want to do.
Molly, I imagine just seeing the actual scene where it happened can give insight.
There's a lot of stuff about that there is from the geographical profiling to understanding ambush points, choke points, what might go through a predator's mind or a psychopath's mind, and why he picked a certain location, what type of person would do that, organized versus disorganized, and person's involvement, how many people it would take to do and commit certain crimes in certain environments. Yeah, there's a lot to be gathered, regardless if you're at the crime scene, but just from analyzing the areas and seeing what the natural movements are and what could have happened. A lot of information to be gathered from that.
All right, Molly, seeing interrogation videos on court TV cases was always really interesting to look at. Could be very different from how they work in court.
Of course, when you go to court, these guys are dressed out, they're shaved, they're in suits, and there's certain things that we have to do in law enforcement that we have to make sure that that when you see them walking into court, you may not see those leg braces. You may not see that shock belt. You may not see the officer that's handling them. He may look like he's just another attorney sitting at the table or right behind him. And because there's certain protocols and certain things that have to be followed to make sure that that defendant appears to be getting as fair a trial as he can and not look like he's being, there's certain times that we handle certain types of killers in court that you have a 3-man detail on him. One of us having a certain job to do and 2 others having other jobs to do. That have certain things occur in court with certain individuals that you would have a plan of action of what would happen. But there's a lot of stuff that happens in courts that when you see them in court sitting there at the defendant's table with his attorneys, it's not always all those guys sitting around are attorneys. Sometimes they're just law enforcement officers that handling a certain situation of a certain type of person.
All right. And the Bible group, the sooner you start accepting money, the sooner you can build up your, quote, war chest to be prepared to help others. A wise man prepares for the unknown, and the unknown is on the way.
And we're working on that. And like I said, I never realized that when I first became involved in this community, what was happening out there as far as these cold cases. I worked some cold cases here also in my jurisdiction, but it was as a law enforcement officer. But then once I became aware of this, and I really, one of the key factors that really got us going on this is speaking with Jerry, and then even the Dylan Rounds case, what's going on with what happened with law enforcement with him and the family taking the truck home, and after it's been washed and all this other stuff. There's still a lot of information that can be gathered from that vehicle. I don't care how long it's been washed, don't care how many people has been in it. There's certain types of evidence that will be there for a long time. And there's ways of processing. Has law enforcement gone back and done that? Don't know. But most certainly, people that are trained in certain areas with certain skill sets can go and most certainly help some of these families. And that may be the course of action that we will take. And whenever we do take that course, and I don't know where she's at on that. We've discussed everything from PayPals to monetization, and it takes a certain period that even when you become your 1,000 subscribers, you meet the hours of viewing that is necessary. there's still a process. It takes quite a while to get the monies in there, and where you can be monetized and start taking monies in and everything. And then we have to decide how we want to help children, exploited children and stuff, and how much do we want to give towards this other project of going on the road. I mean, you know, it's not easy decisions because we've been married
32 years.
32 years. We've been together longer than that, but 32 years. And and we have to discuss that. You know, we have businesses and we have jobs, and how to coordinate this, and you know, with the grandsons and daughters and families and in-laws. There are certain things that we have to take care of, and certain decisions have to be made, and we're going to make those. And it's looking more and more like
we're going to make it happen.
It's going to happen.
If Mama says it happens,
yeah.
It happens.
Mrs. Steve.
All right. So Molly, yes, the walk isn't that helpful, especially when going over railroad ties in just one step. I wish they would show more on the video.
Absolutely. Like I said, it's there's a lot of information I wish that we had.
All right. USA Libertarian, because Ellie knew the video was misleading about the face, slightly less misleading about the body.
Can't argue with that.
The whole thing is misleading. Let's see here. Laura Doon. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Steve, Marvin Frank. At Kokomo Presser today, it definitely caught my attention. Remains found in Miami County. Peru is county seat. Might be nothing, but there it is again.
Yeah. Most certainly Peru is an interesting place. And and I'm with you. Absolutely.
Yeah,
that is a fascinating place. Hopefully at some point I get a chance to drive through that town.
You're not staying.
Yeah, she don't want me to stay,
but you can drive through.
Yeah, because there's certain things I need to look at that's within that area also.
All right, and Susan Purdy, I'm sure you've been asked this before, but do you think Delphi has anything to do with flora?
There's, you know, I really haven't looked that much into that, and I need to go in and do some more research on that. I know that there's insinuation that there's certain people that may have played a part that's lived in both locations, and they're not that far apart to begin with. And I don't have any information showing or saying they're linked, so anything I said about that would just be speculation at this point. But I'll look into it more and get with some people that have more knowledge on it than I to lead me in the right direction to look at some of the information. But flora is most certainly just as important as Delphi. And because when children die, we all should stand up and do everything we can to find out who did this to these children.
All right, digital. Ellie said they could see the fear in the girls when they viewed the entire video. That's awful.
It is. I can't imagine.
All right, and this is from Lisa. I appreciate your quality content because Delphi and others have gone off the rails. Most of these people couldn't investigate their way out of a paper bag. Latest, RL is in protective custody.
Well, yeah, there's a certain misinformation out there, and there's such a challenge. There's so many victims out there, and so much information to get out there that some people, they do go off the deep end for whatever reason, and I hate that for the victims' families, and it doesn't do anything to help the case.
All right, USA, a lot more people have certain individuals on their radar screen, so any more images or voice might help them recognize them.
Absolutely.
Yes. All right, Suzanne Thompson, yes, regarding Peru. Also, a lot of horrible pedophiles in Logansport. All anyone has to do is Google and they start appearing. Guess who the judge is there? Oh,
Let's well, yeah, but on the guest part in the chat, no names, no initials. Once again, jobs, I don't have a problem with, but just in case we don't want to include someone that might have nothing to do with it, because someone may understand what the initials mean or who that person is. And so I just try to stay away from all that information as much as possible.
All right. And Molly and Steve, thanks for the info on the courtroom situations. I have thought sometimes people had a lot of attorneys. It never occurred to me that it was LE dressed like lawyers.
Funny story. One time, me and I was on a detail along with another LE, and we was working a homicide courtroom security, and we had bought the exact same suit and or owned the same suit. I don't know if how long he had his suit, and but we looked like two mafia members. We had an exact pinstripe suit. We looked like we came from the same clan of mafia on that, and I thought, holy cow! And it was funny for the day.
Give you something to talk about.
Yeah.
All right, Corgi Mama. I think CI-CLOPS is the future. You will be on the par with the use of familial DNA genealogy and other important breakthroughs.
Well, even today, though, we were notified of that there's other databases out there that absolutely, and that was one of the things that when you look at these databases, there are thousands of victims on them, and we've chose to narrow it down that we just want teenagers. Because when you look at some of the databases, whenever I was going out there trying to find what we decided that we want to focus on, and that's on predators that target our most vulnerable, which are our children. And that when you look at a lot of these databases, some of them are brilliant, some of them are extremely, and they're great tools. You'll never hear me complain about them. But they're limiting in the fact that when you go through them, you're not able to just pull certain age groups or certain victims. And so you go through them and you go in there. But of course, they have valuable information. So all the kudos in the world to them. But we just chose that we want to create a database that is just targeting that if you want to look at the children that's 12 and younger that have been targeted or missing, abducted, murdered, then you have that option. And the same with the and we had to make choices on age groups, and we chose 0 to 12, 13 to 17, and 18 and 19, so that anyone wishing to go out there and look within those parameters and do some follow-up, and that they may have a crime that occurs in their neighborhood with a 14-year-old that has been abducted or missing, and they could go and look into their states surrounding them or locations near them and see other similar crimes and possibly start making those links. And so that's what we try to do. And like I said, there's a lot of good databases out there, but we just chose to create one that's specific for our desires.
All right. And Kevin Xavier, will CI-CLOPS be on private servers? The answer to that is no. All the information is from the public domain, so there's no really sense in keeping it private.
Yeah.
The maps are not editable. So if anybody needs to make any changes, they'll have to come to us first, so that we can try to keep a handle on what's going on with the maps and so forth.
Yeah, we just didn't want to open source it. And there's some open source maps out there, but there can also be some things out there on that open sources that we didn't want to contend with. And so we decided that, of course, it'll be open to all. We're not going to put up a wall. There won't be a paywall on it. It'll be open source, or not open source, but it'll be available for anyone from law enforcement to a parent wishing to show their child the dangers that are out there for their certain age groups, or even for our web sleuth communities, that if you need to go out there and look for it, you'll be able to go out there and look at it.
All right. And Shane, Steve, speaking of attorneys, do you think Delphi will filter in at Keegan's trial, exchanging money, any pictures? We know they had friends in common. Will a judge tolerate any cross-reference?
There'll be hearings prior to the trial date for that, that they'll set the parameters and what information can come in. And during those hearings, that'll be set. And I'm most certainly that if the DA feels that we can send him off for a longer time if we can get certain information in, they'll be fighting for that. They'll be using that as a leverage to get him to plead out to more time or whatever, because no one likes the type of individual that Keegan Klein is. And he'll never serve enough time for the damage that he has done to the children, not just in from the Anthony Shots, because there's more children involved with the Anthony Shots account than Libby and Abby. That there was other children that was, and from the other accounts he created. So the hearings will say exactly how much the judge will allow in.
All right. And Molly, for CI-CLOPS, the search and filter on the website will be very important too. Hopefully someone good at web design will volunteer. Well, I'm doing the website. I'm not very good, but I have made it easy to search for whatever it might be you're looking for.
The good information is this, is that the filters and everything is that the age groups that we have chosen to include is not, whereas it's going to be thousands and thousands of victims. While the loss of any one child is great, they are limited in nature. And so the format that we've set up for this initial database, if it grows and as it grows, and if we need to hire more professionals in certain areas, we will hire them. But like I said, we set the parameters to limit certain areas of information that's coming in. We have a very narrow scope of the data, and so it is self-governing right now. And so when you pull up, our filter certainly is that you'll be able to see all the children from 19 and younger that's killed within a state. You'll be able to instantly look at the color codes, and as you zoom in, you'll know exactly what age children were being targeted in a certain cluster. And we try to make it as user-friendly as possible.
All right, my friend.
Well, I'm glad y'all came with us tonight, and I hope that y'all found it.
And Marvin Frank has already started.
Okay, Marvin Frank started. Check them out. I think Crime and Shame's going to be on in a little bit. Check them out. They've all been great supporters of mine and helped me in a lot of ways. And but like I said, thank all of these victims that we spoke of tonight.
Pop up. Okay. You want to do it?
Yeah.
USA. Ellie asked the public to come forward if they had contact with Anthony Shots. Do you think they could ask if anyone had met KK specifically in person or online, and should they?
They made reference to that anyone that contacted or had any type of exchange of information, although I know that they were using the law enforcement officer out of Alaska as their image, but that was part of some of the release, and they did ask certain things about that. But anyway, like I said, if you have any information on any crimes that we've ever covered or in certain parts, if you're out of an area that has nothing to do with Iowa or Indiana and has nothing to do with the cases that we've covered, or even with Libby and Abby, if you don't know who to call 911. They'll get you in touch. If you have information on any type of serious crime involving children or any innocent victim that needs to be addressed, most certainly make that call with Flora or whatever. And we want to thank y'all for showing up tonight, and hope y'all have a good night. And I'll see y'all Saturday, and we'll have a show talking a little bit more about some of the issues with Karena McClurkin and communications that I spoke with Jerry. But y'all have a great night and see y'all soon.
Thank y'all.